This is Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium.
Today's guest is Nige Rockett, lead guitarist of Onslaught. Onslaught was formed in 1982 in Bristol, England, and has been rocking ever since. Today he joins us to speak about his upcoming North American tour with Warlord. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Hi, Kathy.
Yes. I'm very excited, actually. This seems to be a big tour. I looked at all the dates. You're doing quite a few dates on the West Coast. You're traveling across the country. So tell me, what is really the details? Since it's the first tour in the United States in 11 years, and you're going to be doing a Force from Hell set, tell me about this. I mean, what are you really looking forward to? Because your fan base is huge.
As you said, it's been 11 years since we've been to the US for a tour. So super excited about that. Last year was the 40th anniversary of our debut album, Power from Hell, which we didn't get the chance to bring to the States. This year is the 40th anniversary of our second album, The Force. So we kind of didn't want our American fans to miss out on the Power from Hell stuff. So we're going to combine the two for both 40th anniversaries and make it The Force from Hell. So combining tracks from both albums and some other surprises along the way also. So it's kind of a special tour. We're, as I said, so happy to bring it to the States for the first time.
Yes, it's very exciting. You know, I was looking back at your history and starting out in the early 1980s. There's an original member. I guess it's your drummer, Steve Grice. It seems like the two of you are the originals. Is that correct?
I formed the band with two friends from school, Jace Pope and Paul Hill. And then Steve Grice joined a few months later. So those guys are obviously not in the band any longer. And I bumped into Jace. We just came back from Australia at the end of last year. And Jace now lives in Australia. And I moved there in 1997. Met up with him. It was amazing to see him again. I haven't seen him for so long, 30 odd years at least. So that was amazing. And now he's becoming my personal trainer. We're doing it over the internet. He's trying to get me back in shape after my health issues and what have you. So it's really cool of him to do that kind of stuff. We'll be back together this weekend and having fun together.
Wow. So I guess I have a question. How does he feel about being one of the founding members of it and then seeing your success over so many years?
The thing is with Jace, he's like a very private person. He always had a big personality when we were kids, but at the same time, he was very private. He was probably only in the band for 6 to 9 months. We used to get loads of friends coming to watch us at rehearsal. So it was like mini gig every time we'd rehearse. We did one gig. No, it was our first gig, actually. Kind of things went a bit wobbly and Jace got really nervous. He really couldn't cope with being the front man of a band. And even in those early days, the pressure around it. And he quit. He just didn't like to be the focus of people's attention. He loves what we're doing now. He loves seeing the success we have. And he said to me, I just couldn't cope with it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do this now. Because we obviously asked him if he'd like to come up and sing one of the songs that he demoed with us. And he said, no chance. It's like not going to happen. He said, it's just not for me. And he said, I couldn't cope when I was doing it. So.
Wow. Well, that's really interesting. You know, I also think, and it's not just standing on stage, but there is a lot of pressure doing what you guys do. And even like this upcoming tour, it's like day in, day out. It's a different city, it's travel, it's time changes. It's a lot, you know, and you have to have that kind of personality, I guess, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through, as of many bands in our genre and our era, been through many, many lineup changes. And that is purely the reason, because of the hard work of touring. We tour a lot. We used to tour even more back from like 2006 to 2018. We were just constant all the time, all across the world. And it is hard work. And if you're not mentally focused onto that, you can't cope. And we've lost so many members that come back from tours like, okay, I quit. I can't do this anymore. So yeah, you've got to be mentally strong and physically to do this, but the rewards are massive. That's why I love doing what I do.
Yes, and the fan base and the crowds and seeing you on stage brings out feelings. And I've heard this so many times from fans. It's not just the songs, but it's attending a live performance that they actually feel like it's more than an event. It's a personal experience. The music that they hear that's been coming out of a record player or, a CD or now streaming comes alive. They get to actually see you play the guitar. And that experience, some people actually feel it's a religious experience for some of them, because it's that personal. Your early days going back to the 80s and now touring now, what would be your biggest kind of like that has improved or that has actually made it difficult? Because you really do have that experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the internet has shaped the band this time around. We didn't have that tool to aid us back in the 80s and stuff. So that's been a massive help. It's allowed us to travel to so many countries. I mean, we were kind of limited to exposure back in the day, but now we're approaching 80 something countries that we've played in the world. And that's just insane to think about. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for the internet and things like that. And it's just amazing. And as you say, the live experience is just something else. I mean, I love listening to music, but you go and see a band, and we pride ourselves on being a real good live band. So the experience kind of intensifies when you hear your favorite songs, but hear them at such great volume and played with a lot more energy, by the band in a live setting. So yeah, I mean, we have to thank the internet and we have to hate the internet at the same time. But I think it's helped this band massively.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I find it interesting because the type of music that you play, thrash metal, but also when you go in a live event, I mean, it's the pit and it's seeing them going in the circles and there's kind of body surfing the crowd. So, from your experience in the early 80s, they were probably still doing that back then. Have you seen any of the pits kind of change over time or have they gotten crazier?
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly different from back then until now. I think pits weren't such a thing in the 80s. It was more kind of stage diving, which I think was a lot more dangerous because we've had kids going off of balconies, off of PAs, jumping from like 20, 30 feet. And that's dangerous when for themselves and not only when they're landing on people below. You kind of don't see that so much nowadays. Security have tightened up on a lot of things like that. I mean, we love it, but we've seen some bad incidents. It shows. I mean, I remember one in Greece. This guy came up on the stage, ran and dived, and there was quite a big gap between the barrier and the edge of the stage. He just smashed face first straight into the barriers at the front, and he was just unconscious. And we stopped the show because we thought he was dead. He was okay, and he was back in the crowd going crazy again within 15 minutes. But you don't really want to see things like that. So I think the pits are a little more safe, and they're a lot of fun for us to look at as opposed to some guy stage diving from behind you. It's like I think the pits are better really in this more modern type thing. But like I said, it wasn't so much, and it was a bit more crowd surfing and stage diving in the 80s. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you're trying to concentrate on your music and then you're like getting distracted by all this. That adds to the stress, right? Another thing I wanted to ask you, which is kind of a blend of then and now, is songwriting. Have you seen any of your songwriting change because of the internet, or do you think that you go back to the same way you would write songs then to now?
No, I don't really approach it any differently. I do a lot of work at home. Obviously now with the technology, as opposed to having a little tape recorder in front of me, press record and play into that. I now obviously have a studio set up at home, which makes things a lot easier and much better for writing. So that's been a massive aid. But no, the process is still very much similar. I'll write some ideas, send it out to the rest of the guys. We jam it in rehearsal a little bit, take it back home, rework. And so, no, nothing's changed for me. Old school techniques.
Well, the reason why I bring up songwriting is because your music is kind of heavy. So, have you had any venue or any city or country say, we would rather take a pass because your music's so heavy, or you haven't had that experience?
No, not really. We've had some protests at shows and some threats at shows, but we've been to China, we've been to Russia. People think China and Russia are very controlling. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but those are the two of the easiest countries we've traveled into. Obviously, we had visas. We got the visas, no problem. We went into China and Russia with probably less problems than we get going into the US, you know. And when we were there in China, in particularly, we didn't know what to expect because we played this international music festival, the first show. They vet your lyrics. They want you to send lyrics and everything else. And so we have like rows of soldiers along the front of the stage, and both sides of the stage are lined with police. So you're like, we're really wary what's going to happen within the first song. Very nervous that first time. Kicked into the first song in full flow. You got soldiers down the front, head banging, fist bump, the police on the stage, head banging. It's like, wow, this is amazing. So no, we've never had any problems anywhere in the world as such. Well, touch wood, that may continue.
That is a great story. Yes, you just never know, but you're right. I have heard that about them vetting songs and lyrics and things like that. Just to go back a little bit, because I don't know the answer to this, how did you start playing guitar? Like you were 12 years old? Like, how did it really come about for you?
Well, me and Paul, who formed the band, we used to travel all over England, watching Discharge, GBH, The Exploited, when we were kids. We'd done that for, I guess, a year, 18 months. And it was like, we love doing this so much, but we don't have our own band. Why are we doing this? Why don't we make our own band if we love it? We can't play any music. We can't play instruments. So, okay, let's try and learn some instruments. Luckily, guitarist from a band, a UK punk band called the Vice Squad, the guitarist lived literally 5 minutes walk from where I did. Bumped into him one day at one of their gigs, got talking to him after. He said, come down and I'll show you the basics of guitar, which he did. We'd done 3 or 4. I went down his house a few times, had coffee and showed me, and that was it. Once he showed me what I needed to know to play punk rock music, we were away. And that was it. Everything rapidly built from there. And I put so much time into learning to play guitar, literally like 8 to 10 hours a day, sometimes just every day, just practice. And it paid off. And that's how it all came about. I owe Dave, sadly he's passed away now, but I owe him everything for teaching me to play guitar.
That's incredible. But it also shows to your own self, though, because the guitar is probably very difficult to play. And, some people would say, oh, my fingers hurt, or this is too hard. Or, for being a young person, that's usually the reason why they stop playing. So you really had that drive in you. We were really on the topic of songwriting. And all of your songs, I've been listening to them, and I'm like, wow, this is really incredible stuff. So the song A Perfect Day to Die, first of all, the title gets my attention. So tell me about that.
It was written as a kind of tribute to Lemmy when he passed away. We toured with Motorhead in our early days, and they were kind of the band that helped break Onslaught to the next level or beyond. They were just such amazing guys. The tour was fantastic. Obviously, Lemmy was Lemmy. It's kind of got that Motorhead vibe and the kind of lyrics that you can associate. If you read it, you would kind of associate that with Lemmy. And so that's basically what that song's about. Total Motorhead vibe, a tribute to Lemmy.
That's awesome. Well, I love Motorhead. We're going to drop in the song now. Wow, it's really amazing. So when you reflect on your songwriting, are you the primary person that does most of the songwriting, or do you say that it's a group effort? Because I know you said you send stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been the primary songwriter since the beginning. I think on two albums, Sounds of Violence and Six, 2011, 2014, Andy Rosser Davis, another guitarist, was in the band, and we kind of shared the writing duties on those two albums. Got a slight different feel on those albums. It was a cool process we had. We'd sit together in a small recording studio, just bouncing ideas off each other. Somebody would come up with a riff. That sounds cool. Okay, let's do this. Then he'd come back and say, let's do this. And so a majority of the riffs and the songs are all compiled completely between two of us sat with our guitars in a studio. And it was a cool process, very quick as well, because you constantly got ideas bouncing off each other. Generation Antichrist last time, I think I kind of wrote 85% of the material, and it gets a little tougher when you haven't got somebody saying, no, that's not so good, or that's amazing, or that's okay, let's improve. So it was a little harder and a little longer, but I'm still over the moon with the results that came out on that album.
That's great. Yeah, I know. It's interesting because your songs, sometimes people say, well, if it's really fast, it sounds the same. But I've been listening to your music and it doesn't. Even though it's fast, it doesn't sound the same.
Something with thrash metal that it has the potential, as you said, to sound the same. I think the fastest songs are the hardest ones to write for me because they need that identity that doesn't sound like something we've done before. So if you listen to the majority of our fast songs, they're very poles apart in the riffs and the way they come together. It's so easy just to pound out a beat at 200 BPM and put a guitar riff over it. I could write those all day long, but they probably end up sounding all the same. So, I mean, one kind of philosophy I have about writing music and albums in particular is to never make your new album sound anything like the last one. It's got to be fresh and completely independent of anything that's came before. I'm just starting work on the next album, kind of going retro with it to make it sound new, if that makes sense. Because the last three albums kind of quite technical. Generation Antichrist was a little bit more back to basics, but going to take this one back a little farther again, just so it doesn't sound anything like the past three and sounds fresh to itself, if that makes sense.
It does, and it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing that. I wanted to reflect on another song called Bow Down to the Clowns. What is that about?
It was about, I'm sure the people of the USA are very aware of what happened in the UK over the last 8 to 10 years with our government, and it's still going on now. Our government then and our government now are absolutely ridiculous. So basically, Bow Down to the Clowns was written about our previous government, which is kind of the first time I've ever gone full on kind of political with a song, even though it's still kind of subliminal in its lyrics. If you read into it and I tell you it's about the last English government, you'll soon see where I'm coming from. Yeah, I was so angry with what was going on. Bow Down to the Clowns. I mean, our Prime Minister at the time was a complete clown, and he still is, even though he's not, thankfully, Prime Minister anymore, but we now have another clown. So it's still relevant in 2026 as it was in 2020. The political things never end in the UK.
Yes. Well, it's interesting, too, because it also is a reflection of the life that we're living in today. And I think that's what ignites a lot of your fans, is your fans may be living in other countries, but maybe experience the same situation, just not in the UK, right?
You're very true there. I mean, we have messages from all over the world. Like, yes, I can relate to this with our governments and what have you. So yeah, very universal, even though it was totally directed at the UK.
Yes, I wanted to just drop in the song now, so we'll be listening to Bow Down to the Clowns. I just wanted to go back to something though, because we had talked about your band and how there's been a lot of changes, with members over the years. And I mean, it's 40 years, so of course there's going to be changes. But there was a return, Sly Keeler. So can you bring me through that? Because it looks like there was like a period of time he was with the band, then there was a period of time he was not, and then he came back. So, and there now is like the second return of him, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, Sly's been the vocalist on the truly classic Onslaught albums, I think. He was on the Force album. Then when we came back in 2005, Sly returned to the band. He was kind of one of the guys I was speaking about earlier who got into a position, I think in 2018, 2019, we'd just been touring relentlessly. He was really finding it hard at that particular time. He was getting a lot of anxiety with the travel and stuff. We got back from our last European tour, I think it was, at the time. He said, guys, I can't carry on with it. So you could see he was very jaded and not enjoying the experience of being on the road any longer. So sadly, he quit then on very good terms. We understood what was going on. And we were fortunate to get another vocalist in Dave Garnett for the Generation Antichrist album. Did an absolutely amazing job. And then 2005, he fell to the same thing. He was a very inexperienced, very talented musician, but very inexperienced. He'd not done any major tours, any long tours. And we did a short batch of dates and he couldn't handle it at all. We were due to go on tour in Europe for, I think it was 21 shows. Literally a week before, he said, guys, I can't do this. I'm not going. Literally a week before. So we were lucky enough to have somebody who stepped in at literally 5 days' notice he had to do this tour. His name was Oscar Rilo from Spain. What an amazing guy. He came in 4 or 5 days and learned a full set. Absolutely incredible. And the tour was an amazing success. 80% sold out shows. Nobody moaned that Oscar had stepped in and helped us. Everybody was just loving the fact that the tour still went ahead. Oscar had done this fantastic job for us, He wasn't necessarily the right guy moving forwards for the band vocally. He certainly did a job on tour. So we got back from tours. What do? We're going to get lucky again to get somebody. It's just too many changes. And Jeff said, let's ask Sly. Got nothing to lose. So we did. And Sly's like, yeah, I'm in. That was it straight away. It's like, wow, fantastic. Got Sly back in the rehearsal room, few rehearsals. Sounded really good. He'd had I think it was 7 years layoff, something like that. Voice was still obviously strong, but needed practice. And we rehearsed on Saturday this week. And man, did he sound good. His voice is just, because we've done the Australia and Southeast Asia tour, his voice is so strong now. He's just hitting everything. Incredible. So, yeah, he's back on fire, sounding so good. I think the fans are going to love it. Fans are really going to love it.
That is so great. Yeah. It's also interesting in life how things happen, like you probably would have never thought that someone would be able to be up for, the events that Oscar went through. And also people do need time off. And it sounds like the time off was well-deserved because now he's killing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously missed out. I mean, Generation Antichrist album was written for Sly, basically, with Sly in mind. That never happened. So he's obviously feels a little, I missed out on that album because it's been such a critically acclaimed album for us. He's obviously a little sad to miss out on that. But at the same time, he's like, as you said, he's a reinvigorated person. He's a completely different person now. And he's just so excited and so fired up for everything we're doing. It's amazing. It's just like a kid with a new toy. Even though he's done it for all these years past, he's like full on excitement.
That is so cool. We're going to talk about your song Metal Forces now. That would have been a song that Sly would have been involved in. Is that correct?
Yeah. I have another funny story about that.
So do tell.
I think it was the last song that we wrote for the Force album. Obviously, Sly had joined the band by then. And the very first show that Sly did with us was at the legendary Marquee Club in London, in England. Everybody played there. Queen, Led Zeppelin, Motorhead, Sabbath, it was just like the legendary rock club in London. So this was Si's first gig with Onslaught. We were special guests to Exciter, Canadian band. They took an age sound checking. We obviously had limited time to sound check, but we sound checked. All the doors opened because they didn't want things to run late. So basically, by the time we started to sound check, the room was packed. It was a sold out show. The room was packed. So Metal Forces was what we were sound checking with. I've never witnessed a sound check like it. And it was like the kids must have thought we were actually playing the show rather than sound check. The place just went the whole place just erupted. There was kids all across the stage and we were only sound checking. It's like, it was insane. And then we stopped playing and they were like, hey, what's happening? This is sound check. But amazing. Yeah.
That's great. That is so great. So just tell me a little bit about that song, Metal Forces. Like, what is the premise of it?
The name of the song came from a magazine in the UK called Metal Forces. They were very, very involved in making Onslaught make the early steps. Lots of coverage at gig reviews, great album reviews, live reviews. They're very, very instrumental in getting our name out to the fans. Bernard, the guy who ran the magazine, was a lovely guy, and we knew all the journalists there as well, because it was a big scene in London, and everybody knew everybody, and we were all out drinking together. It was just such a great time. And to get on with all the guys in this magazine, we just felt like we owed them the world, basically, at that time. So we thought, what better way can we pay them back by writing a song called Metal Forces dedicated to them? And it's turned out to be one of our most popular songs of all time.
That is so great. It's like a tribute to them. So when you're playing, and I've been to so many concerts, but I always love when I see this, when the crowd starts shouting out a song, like they want their song to be played. So is Metal Forces one of those?
Oh, yeah, all the time, yeah, 100%. Every show without fail.
That is great. So we're going to drop in the song Metal Forces now. I just wanted to go back and ask you a question because you're going to be touring in this upcoming North American tour with Warlord. And you've been actually traveling with them before. You've been touring with them before, so you've had experience going out with them. Is that correct?
No, never
Oh,
played with
no.
Warlord.
Oh, so
No,
this is
no.
your first time you're going to be touring with Warlord?
Actually, our manager is the singer of Warlord, so that's how this has come about. I mean, they seem to be getting a bit of a buzz going, so really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be two totally different bands, which is good for me. I think rather than having a band, 3-band bill full of thrash bands, mix it up a little bit, draw different crowds in. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great.
Yes. So, what is your impression of Warlord just in regards to being a music critic? Like, how would you say, other than it being two different bands, but I mean, like, what would you say? Like, because you'll be drawing two different groups of fans.
Yeah, I guess so. But we came kind of from where they are, kind of old school heavy metal. I mean, they remind me of Manowar a little bit, obviously without the loincloths and swords. But, oh no, Giles does have a sword actually. But yeah, they kind of remind me of that kind of vibe a little bit. And that's kind of all the music we loved back in the day, even though we weren't playing that. Anybody who likes Warlord, I think, would hope they would be impressed by Onslaught as well. I think it's going to be a good tour. I really do. I mean, the ticket sales are going really well by all accounts.
Absolutely. So, I wanted to ask you, now that we're in 2026 and you said you're working on a new album, where do you see the band in the next year or two? Like, where would you like to see the steps of the band? So what the fans could be looking forward to besides just a new album, but, any tour ideas or wish list tour ideas, or there's so many here that do cruises. And I know that there is a heavy metal cruise. So could you ever see yourself doing one of the heavy metal cruises?
We've done 3 so far.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
One of the best experiences ever, I gotta say. It's such a unique, bizarre idea, but it really works. Absolutely amazing. The first one I think was 2011. We done 2017, and we done last year. Just the best experience you could ever imagine. Sails from Miami or Fort Lauderdale down to the Caribbean, one of the islands. They choose a different island every year. So you play a show on the way out as you sail out. You have a day in the Caribbean, whichever island it may be. Then you play a show on the way back. It's just out of this world. The food's amazing. The people are amazing. It's just unbelievable. So anybody who's thinking of doing a cruise, I recommend it highly.
That's good. Well, I hope you get to do one in the next year or two. You have a busy schedule. What else, other than planning this new album, what else do you see the future for Onslaught?
As we spoke about earlier, it's been 11 years since we've been to the States. And that's something that we really need to kind of rectify and build on. For some reason or another, we've not built on that. So that needs to be put straight. We're doing this tour, obviously, 5 weeks, 6 weeks time, whatever. Predominantly West Coast and one show in Canada. So we're now planning the next leg, which is going to be East Coast and the rest of Canada. That's the priorities for this one before the next album comes out. Then hopefully if the next album's a success, then we can repeat and do bigger and better next time. So I think the main aim at the moment, we've done a lot of bucket lists lately. Australia was our biggest bucket list for a long time. We've done that now, absolutely incredible. So now is the time to we want to concentrate on the US and build ourselves up there again.
That's great. Well, I will be looking forward to the second leg because I'm in the New York City area. So I hope to catch you when you're planning that. So that is great. Well, it has been a pleasure to have you on. We are going to roll out with your song, Strike Fast, Strike Hard. Thank you again. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Kathy. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. Everyone check out Onslaught on their tour. Thank you again, Nige.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium, Dream Central Station, LLC. My audio editor is Al Hemberger at the Loft Recording Studios in Bronxville, New York. This is WNEW 102.7 FM radio.